Anyway, let's go on to the next tier. The third tier, in my opinion, we have Jolteon is the first one. Jolteon is a tech that I came up with. Um, it's very, very cool. Basically, it's an electric type that beats Raikou and Zapdos. And how does it beat Raikou and Zapdos? Well, you have access to Volt Absorb, so they usually cannot touch you at all. And before Raikou subs, you hit it with Toxic, and then you win unless it has Rest. So this is a very, very cool anti-Raikou Pokemon. You run Toxic, Substitute, Thunderbolt, and then I like Hidden Power Grass, because with Hidden Power Grass, you beat Swampert usually. I think unless it's like a substitute set, but usually you beat the Swampert. So it's a very nice way to beat Swampert. And literally Hidden Power Grass does nothing else. You can also run Hidden Power Ice if you want to beat Salamence and Flygon. So yeah, and what also is nice about Jolteon is that you still cover fast threats like Starmie, and not only does Jolteon just beat these two electric types, it also covers Alakazam. You beat Calm Mind Alakazam, Thunderbolt does too much damage, and they can't KO you back. So it's also a very cool Alakazam answer, as well as a Sceptile answer, especially with Hidden Power Ice. The downside, and why it's so much lower ranked than these two, is that it doesn't have pressure, so Jolteon will always lose to things like Marowak and Metagross, and it has a hard time versus like Heracross. It doesn't have Calm Mind, so it doesn't even have a chance to break through things like Blissey or Miltank. So it's like very streamlined for like the fast, speedy matchups, but sacrifices a lot against more stallier Pokemon, because like Jolteon's like pretty weak. So yeah, I think Jolteon's really cool though. It fits well on a lot of teams. Next, Gengar. If you asked me during my classic run, where I thought Gengar would have been ranked, I probably would have put him like in 6th or 7th. Like, Gengar sucked to me because it's outclassed by Alakazam as a full-on special attacker, because Alakazam hits harder, Alakazam is faster, and Alakazam has a special stab move, which Ghost and Poison, hilariously, are both physically based. So Shadow Ball is not doing a thing with 65 base attack. And they both have access to the elemental punches. Well, Gengar has Thunderbolt, but... So I always thought Alakazam was just better, until I realized, and I tried to innovate, and I researched, and I looked into it, and I came up with a really cool set, which I will show you right now. This is why Gengar... Literally, this set alone, in my opinion, is why Gengar should be at this rank. Defensive Will-O-Wisp Gengar. So the idea of this set is, instead of trying to outspeed Pokemon like Flygon and Salamence and hit them with an Ice Punch, you tank anything they throw at you and then kill them with the Ice Punch. This set, also very cool, beats Metagross usually by clicking Will-O-Wisp. If you hit, burn, and then you can Fire Punch twice, and Metagross won't be able to 2-hit KO you because you're so bulky now with burn. And furthermore, Giga Drain is really cool for beating Swampert. You beat most Swampert by just clicking Giga Drain. This is very cool because you stomp on Metagross. You beat Marowak because of Levitate. Unless Marowak is running Hidden Power Ghost, then it's kind of rough. And yeah, you can also beat Tyranitar with Giga Drain. However, it's kind of shaky, but I'd still call it a very solid Tyranitar check as percentage. The only reason that I have Gengar as this low, when it checks so many attackers, including, by the way, you can even beat some Zapdos by just clicking Ice Punch twice, because you're still very powerful even with little invest. The reason I have it low is because Will-O-Wisp. Will-O-Wisp is only 75% accuracy. That's almost like hitting a Focus Blast. And if you don't care about, like for example, if you are afraid of the Will-O-Wisp tactics and also trying to beat Swampert, you can get rid of Giga Drain and you can run Taunt. And Taunt plus Will-O-Wisp will beat Registeel, because of your Ghost type. You resist Seismic Toss, so you can just Taunt Registeel, Will-O-Wisp, Fire Punch, Taunt, Will-O-Wisp, Taunt, Fire Punch, and just do that, and you'll slowly break down Registeel. And Taunt can probably also finesse other matchups too, I would assume. You can even like experiment with something like a Curse set. You could experiment with like counter. Like he has a lot of cool ideas for moves. So experiment with Gengar. It's a lot cooler than I gave it credit for. So yeah, next up we have Blaziken. Blaziken is a really, really good Pokemon. It's the second best fighting type in the game, in my opinion. The reason that makes Blaziken so good is it's very, very versatile. It has amazing mixed attack with 120 attack and 110 special attack with the ability Blaze. You can run a set like this. You can run Salac Berry is very common on Blaziken with Endure, Hidden Power, Ice maybe, Reversal. This is the first one that I was introduced to, an Overheat. This makes use of Reversal having 200 base power when you Endure, Overheat plus Blaze doing stupid amounts of damage, and Endure plus Hidden Power Ice luring banded Salamence and Flygon, as well as beating like Metagross, for example. The problem with Blaziken, though, is that in this set, to beat Tyranitar, you need to run Sky Uppercut, because if you Endure on a Sand, you're going to lose. But to kind of ground whoever is still watching this video of me talking about Generation 3, I'm going to show you a Blaziken set that I made to kind of give you a baseline example of what you might want to run. So this is a very cool idea. I wanted a Blaziken that didn't have to play 50-50s versus Heracross, because often Blaziken versus Heracross is like an Endure war. So let's say I click Overheat on their Endure. Now they get the Salac Berry. Now it's a 50-50. Do I Endure to get my Salac Berry? What if they Swords Dance? Then I lose, because then I'd have to try to Endure again. And there's a lot of that stuff. So I came up with the idea of Bulk Up Blaziken. Here's what my EV spread does. So Bulk Up Blaziken, this is to outspeed let's see, I'm pretty sure this is to outspeed a Heracross that is just 252, right? Yeah, this is to outspeed just 252 Heracross, so Jolly Heracross could finesse me here. So this is to outspeed most Heracross, and with the defense investment, when I substitute, because I 4 times resist Mega Horn, it actually won't break my substitute, nor will Reversal, because it's at 20 base power. So that was the idea behind this, that I could always substitute turn 1 versus Heracross, and then win, because I can overheat. I can then overheat against it, and if it endures, I'm still behind my substitute. If it subs itself, then there's still some weird outplaying that needs to be done, but and that's why I have Salac Berry, to just more so secure the Heracross matchup. But yeah, then attack plus the special attack. The other reason that Blaziken is really good is that there's often a weird dilemma with Metagross and Registeel, is that a lot of fighting types can't beat both of these. Often, like for example, let's say Heracross usually can beat Registeel, but sometimes can't beat Metagross. Machamp can usually beat Registeel, but can't beat Metagross because of the Psychic typing. Blaziken deals with that by being a mixed attacker who isn't trying to hit Registeel physically. The play versus Registeel here is you overheat. If they click Iron Defense, you can usually overheat again. If they click Amnesia, you just Sky Uppercut and kill them. And if they rest on the overheat, which is the very insane play, you can click Bulk Up multiple times and then start to chip them down with Sky Uppercut. So this is also anti-Registeel Blaziken, but like other good sets is Blaziken has access to Reversal. You can run like sub Reversal with Lychee Berry. Like this is a set that I've seen a lot. Like sub Reversal, and then you run like Overheat and I forgot what like another one is, but just stuff like that is a good idea. But yeah, So Blaziken is very versatile, and I always recommend EVing it yourself to see what you want to beat. Because, like, for example, on the Endure Salac Berry set, do you want to run enough speed to outspeed, like, Banded Aerodactyl or something like that? But speaking of Aerodactyl, let's move on to Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl is... I'm not the biggest fan of Aerodactyl, but a lot of people seem to be. But it is good. I think the set that I've used before is the Choice Banded set. What sucks about Choice Banded Aerodactyl, though, is that it's very one-dimensional and sadly doesn't KO a lot of things that you would hope it does. And furthermore, you have to run Jolly to outspeed Raikou, which really sucks. But you would run like Rock Slide. You do need Rock Slide on this one to KO Zapdos. Rock Slide, Earthquake, Hidden Power Flying, and then the best move is to utilize Rock Head and use Double Edge, and you can 2-hit KO Blissey if they're not running Counter. This is a good lure for Raikou, by the way, this kind of set, and some Zapdos. But it's honestly too weak to do too much, so I don't like it that much. And there's also, utilizing Pressure, a more niche, but honestly, recently I found it a kind of interesting Pressure Stall set. The reason that you usually want to use Zapdos or Raikou over Aerodactyl is that Pressure Stall Aerodactyl usually loses to Zapdos and Raikou because of Electric Stab. You have to do a lot of outplaying versus Raikou to win, because if they sub up, it's a very weird matchup for Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl is, again, one of those Pokemon where you have to really, really outplay your opponent multiple times to win. But what's cool is that Aerodactyl, with its rock typing, can usually beat some weaker Pokemon that are trying to run Return to beat the Pressure Stall tactics, like a banded Miltank using Return or something like that. Next, we had Vaporeon on the list. Vaporeon is the premier defensive water type in the tier. This is literally optimal, by the way, the 252 with leftovers, and the 3 mandatory moves on Vaporeon are Acid Armor, Rest, and Surf. Surf makes use of its surprising special attack and to break down stuff. And then I would say that there's multiple options you can run for your third slot, which I think is cool. Because, like, Vaporeon is meant to, like, for example, wall stuff like Blaziken. You can wall things like Tyranitar, Metagross, Marowak, Heracross. Like, you just can you can beat a ton with Vaporeon. I think the best final moves are things like you could run Toxic, because some Vaporeons are bad and they run Wish Protect, which is inferior to Rest Acid Armor. You could run Toxic though for some stuff. I think another potential is Ice Beam, so that you don't have to Acid Armor stall a Salamence and hope that you can beat it, because it is kind of shaky versus getting crit. I like the idea of Ice Beam. You can also run for, like, because the Vaporeon Ditto is literally water absorb stuff. I think an interesting idea would be to run a move that could beat other Vaporeon. This is actually something that I'm thinking of on the fly. So I guess I wanted to share my favorite technique is Mimic. Very, very cool. So Mimic, long story short, allows you to beat Registeel if it's running Seismic Toss, because at the end of a pressure stall, or at the end of like a stall war between Vaporeon and Registeel, so let's say Registeel is using, can you see down here real quick? Yeah, let's say Registeel is using Amnesis. Next, we have, this is kind of an interesting pick to be in one of the top 18 Pokemon in the game, but I truly think Miltank is super good. The standard set that you'll see most people try to run is something utilizing like Defense Curl. Well, you can run Defense Curl or Curse. Defense Curl, Toxic, Milk Drink, its signature recovery move that isn't Rest, and then like Body Slam. You also might see like Curse. This is an interesting set. I honestly haven't labbed this set out very much, but I know it'll in general do a lot of work, I assume. But I actually like this tech, which is easily one of my favorite creations. So when I was building Miltank like about a week or two ago, I was like, man, I think defensive Miltank just isn't that good. how can I utilize Miltank's speed to its advantage? And I thought, why not run Choice Band? This thing has great bulk and speed. If I can 2-hit KO things before they can 2-hit KO me, then Miltank is good. And this set is super cool. The idea of this set is with these EVs, this again is to outspeed Adamant Band Salamence. You'll notice that I prep for Adamant Band a lot. Jolly Band is also really good. It's just, yeah, anyway. With these EVs, Double Edge will actually 2-hit KO Salamence even with the Intimidate. Return is anti-pressure stall, and you'll always beat Raikou and Zapdos with this because of your already pretty solid special bulk with the HP that I have. What's also really cool is that because of Miltank's natural bulk, you can outspeed and 2-hit KO Tyranitar and Metagross with Earthquake, which is very, very neat. And so that's what these three moves are for. And then at the end, I didn't honestly need anything else. Counter wasn't useful for me, and nothing else really stood out. So Focus Punch was the tech to have a 50-50 versus Blissey. Either Blissey knows that I'm Focus Punch and clicks Ice Beam to eventually kill me as I'm locked into Focus Punch, or it tries to click Counter and I KO with Focus Punch. So that's just kind of a cool technique that I put as the 5th move to force a 50-50. Next row. This is a very interesting row, the kind of like my general 4th tier of Generation 3. The first one is Regice. Regice is one of the premier special tanks in Generation 3 because of its insane, literally absurd special defense stat, especially when you invest in HP, it becomes ridiculous. And it very, very solidly checks with my set, which I think is the best, things like Raikou, Zapdos, and Marowak, as well as just taking on things like well, here, I'll just show you my set. This is what a lot of people run. They run Ice Beam, Rest, Sleep Talk, and like Toxic or Thunderbolt, which I think is really, really bad. Sleep Talk is a usually pointless move on most Pokemon. You can actually, but the only one that I think Sleep Talk is cool on is you could get away with Sleep Talk on Vaporeon as an option. I forgot to mention that, but yeah, let me show you what I think is the best set. So this is my Regice set, and I think it is the best for multiple reasons. So for one, it might seem weird to have Amnesia without Rest, but my special defense is so stupid, plus leftovers, that I don't need Rest paired with Amnesia. This Regice is built to beat Jolteon, Raikou, and Zapdos. Your play is to click Amnesia turn 1, they can Calm Mind all they want, and then you spam Seismic Toss to break their Substitute and Protects, and they can't pressure stall you. And even if they do try to Substitute Protect all the way down, you have Ice Beam to cover that as well. With Amnesia, you tank enough from Raikous. The reason I have Seismic Toss over Ice Beam is because of Calm Mind Raikou, so that I can reliably beat that. And then lastly, Hidden Power Grass is just a very, very good way to beat Swampert. The only Swampert that would give this Regice trouble is if you're like a speedy, banded Swampert with Rock Slide, or you are Spadef Mirror Coat Swampert, which would definitely finesse this Regice because you can't risk clicking Ice Beam turn 1 in case they are a banded Rock Slide. Anyway, so yeah, very, very cool Regice set, because you also just sit in front of things like Starmie, set up an Amnesia, and just Seismic Toss away, and they can't do anything about it. Like, this could probably even beat Vaporeon as well. Next, we have the other Reggie. It's actually on a team that I have. This was a Pokemon that I didn't really ever consider before until I noticed just how stupid some of its base... Oh, also, real quick, by the way, you can get away with Toxic on Regice. I think it's a solid move, as well as Counter Regice is kind of funny. Counter Regice can just finesse some things that you wouldn't believe. So, because 80-100 is not that bad. Anyway, back to Regirock. This is my Regirock set. Um, because of how stupidly insane Regirock's defense is, when you invest in HP, this lives. I'm not kidding. This lives a banded 252 plus Adamant Meteor Mash from Metagross, and you kill it with counter. Super duper cool. You tank so many stupid hits with this HP and defense, and then you run Superpower to secure the matchup versus a Tyranitar, and you actually KO Blissey. Like, unless the Blissey for some reason is running, I have lost to this in tournament, by the way, unless the Blissey is for some reason running this with counter, you will KO the Blissey. And then Rollout makes its reappearance, with this time it has Stab and it's banded, is the tech to beat Zapdos. With this Spadef and HP, you can live a lot of Thunderbolts, and you can usually beat them with Rollout. It just gives you a chance. It's not 100% solid, but it gives you a very good chance. And Rollout is also necessary so that you don't lose to other Pressure Stall Pokemon that are Fire types like Entei. So that's also what Rollout is for. It's necessary on banded Regirock. I think another interesting tech on Regirock is running Curse with Rest. You'd run like Curse, Rest, Hidden Power Rock, and then maybe like Earthquake. But yeah, I think this set just does the best. You could also, like, another idea that I've had, which is kind of goofy, you could run like something like, if you run Leftovers, you could potentially run Thunderwave, because in Generation 3, Paralysis quarters the speed, so Regirock will literally outspeed everything if something is paralyzed, and in this game you can paralyze electric types. You could run Thunderwave Rock Slide and try to flinch people. That's like an interesting idea, I guess. But yeah, anyway, that's Regirock. Very solid rock-type Pokemon. Next, we have Hariyama. So every fighting type needs to, that I'm going to be listing next, needs to somehow differentiate themselves from Blaziken and Heracross, which are by far the best fighting types. You might think with Hariyama you could run Bulk Up, which is true, but I actually have, in my opinion, an ingenious set that makes use of Hariyama's qualities. But let me show you this. This is for all the people that say frickin' everybody runs Leftovers. Let me introduce you to the power that is Scope Lens Hariyama. I'm not kidding you guys. This is, in my opinion, the best Hariyama set. By the way, Thick Fat is a really cool ability that allows it to more solidly beat things like Entei, like just like Ice and Fire type attackers. You can run Guts though, both are very good abilities. So the idea behind this Hariyama is that I wanted a fighting type like Hariyama that doesn't lose, that can usually always beat Registeel. The problem with Bulk Up is that Registeel can click Iron Defense and then start Seismic Tossing on Hariyama, and Hariyama can't really do anything about it. This set, on the other hand, is basically saying, I don't care how many times you set up Iron Defense, I'm going to set up a Focus Energy, with this Focus Energy, raising your critical hit ratio by 2, access to Scope Lens, and Cross Chop, you are critical hitting more than 50% of the time. Like, I think it's like 70 or something. And so you will definitely beat any Blissey, any Registeel that tries to beat you, as well as just beating things that fighting types want to beat, like Regirock and Regice. And what's also really cool is Hariyama has so much HP that it's actually optimal to invest in its defenses, and with this, it actually becomes bulkier than like Machamp. Like if we were to put Machamp right here and move it to here. So Machamp has 90, 80, 85, which at first is bulkier, but you can go like, if you invest in HP and defense, and Hariyama also invests in HP and defense, Hariyama will be bulkier because it gets more out of the defense investment. But this is just aims at trying to set up and crit through a lot of things that set up. You can run Bulk Up. What Bulk Up does is Bulk Up gives it a much better chance at beating things like Marowak, because you kind of like set up alongside of the Focus Energy, and it gives you enough defense to like tank a lot of the hits. So like if you really want a Curse Pert answer, I'd recommend running bulk up over arm thrust. But I really like utilizing arm thrust because it's really cool to have a much better matchup versus things like substitute Sceptile, where with arm thrust plus focus energy and your scope lens, you can be hitting multiple times and critting with your arm thrusts, which will do insane damage because of stab as well. And remember, critical hits in Generation 3 do double damage, not 1.5. So every Pokemon basically has Sniper, which is pretty nuts. And then the last move slot is just maximizing what Hariyama could do. No other coverage was useful for me. Like, I didn't need to be using Rock Slide. I didn't need, like, Belly Drum. I didn't need pretty much anything else, to be honest. So I just put on Counter, and this just casually checks something like a Metagross trying to click Meteor Mash. If you couldn't tell, Banded Metagross is teched for a lot, and that's why I think fancier Metagross spreads and movesets are better. But yeah, so this is Hariyama. Very, very cool, and like has a niche, especially with Arm Thrust. Next, we have Entei. Entei is a Pokemon I haven't used that much recently, but the idea behind Entei is that it's a pressure staller, just like Raikou and Zapdos. So you just casually beat a lot of stuff with Substitute plus Protect, but now you're a fire type, so you can confidently more safely beat things like Registeel and Metagross. I think this is generally the best set, Calm Mind Flamethrower with leftovers. You can run all sorts of different spreads, but I think running max speed is useful because when you run max speed, this will actually give it a lot better chance to beat Zapdos because you can Calm Mind against it. So yeah, I don't have a ton to say about Entei. It's just really, really solid. You can even run, I have seen a set where to try and beat Swampert, you run Sunny Day Solar Beam. It also gets access to that with Calm Mind. Next, I don't like you, Jirachi. We are going to move you here. Starmie is next. Starmie is a very cool Pokemon that I kind of like. It saw usage before, but I kind of popularized the set that I'm going to show you, which is Sub Pataya Starmie. It's very, very cool. You run Substitute, Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, and Thunderbolt. So Starmie is very cool because it's a very fast Pokemon that can just take on a lot of threats like Metagross. And also, Starmie's typing and defenses aren't that bad, so you can kind of utilize them to beat a lot of stuff. The other reason I like Starmie is it's a water type with Thunderbolt to counter other water types like Milotic, Vaporeon, etc. Gyarados, stuff like that. So yeah, next we are going to look at Jirachi. This is a Pokemon that a lot of people just casually think is like a top tier Generation 3 threat. I do not think. I actually think it's bad. The only reason that I have it in the 4th tier, I would like to put it lower, is because I honestly haven't investigated Jirachi that much. But what, in my opinion, what makes Jirachi not super solid is that the common set is like people just swipe from Gen 3 OU. Like Calm Mind, Psychic, Wish, then maybe like Hidden Power Grass or like Ice Punch or Fire Punch. The problem with Jirachi though is that even with this, for example, you lose to Jirachi doesn't have access to counter. So when you don't have access to counter, you're just going to lose to stuff like Tyranitar, which easily shakes off a Hidden Power Grass. You could go physical Jirachi, which I am a fan of. You'd have to run like... Well, here's the thing. To run physical Jirachi, if you wanted to hit with your Steel type move, you'd have to run Hidden Power Steel. I think the reason I have Jirachi here is because it's really, really versatile in theory. You can run like things like Calm Mind. Anyway, next. You might be wondering, why the heck, how in the world is Kecleon viable in Generation 3? This is another Pokemon that I created. A very cool tech. I'll just pull up the set. So this is the Kecleon. what Kecleon does is I thought of the idea to utilize its insane special defense when I maximize hit HP and the ability Color Change. What Color Change does is when someone hits you with an attack, you turn into that attack's type. And paired with Return, which, as you remember, beats Pressure Stall tactics, because Zapdos and Raikou are only hitting you with Electric-type attacks, you beat these two Pokemon with Kecleon, which is absolutely nuts. And it's also the highest ranked Pokemon that can viably use Trick, with Trick Choice Band, because you hit hard with Return. Brick Break is here so that you can beat Registeel. So what you do against Registeel is you Trick, and you just win by clicking Rest if they Seismic Toss, or Brick Break if they click anything else, and you'll slowly chip down and beat Registeel. Especially when they Seismic Toss you and give you the fighting type so that you can have Brick Break Stab. Brick Break also beats any Tyranitar that isn't Choice. I think, if I recall correctly, you live anything from Tyranitar that isn't Brick Break. Yeah, you don't live a Brick Break, but if the Tyranitar is, like I said, one of those Endure sets or the Taunt Dragon Dance, which I think is its best set, you will beat Tyranitar. So that's something that's really cool about Kecleon as well. And because of its because of Color Change, you also just casually beat a lot of Pokemon that are only hitting you with one type of move, especially with your special defense. You'll beat non-barrier Alakazam, you'll beat things like Regice, you'll beat things like Vaporeon, you'll beat things like Starmie, you'll beat things like Entei, Moltres. Honestly, dude, actually, you know what? I think that Kecleon is easily better than Jirachi. I don't even know why I have Jirachi up here. Jirachi, you should not be here. You know what should be here? Kecleon. Like, I'm serious. This thing is so stupid good. It's just you have to get rid of the idea that, oh, it's a Kecleon, so it's like, you know, it's not going to be good. But, dude, I'm telling you, Kecleon is so freaking cool. You even beat Blissey. You beat so much crap with Color Change. Just so much random crap, including, like, Sceptile and stuff. You lose to Leech Seed Stall, admittedly, but, yeah, it's just... Kecleon is nuts. And, yeah... So that's why I think Kecleon is really cool. Easily my favorite tech that I've ever created in any generation is realizing that freaking Kecleon can be viable in a 1v1 generation. So yeah, let's move on to the... Wait, we already did this. Oh yeah, let's move on to the other Pokemon. This, you might think... Bro, like, you might think, how in the world is freaking Victory Bell viable?